If Richarlison left, Sonny left, and Solomon left, and then you could go and bring in a or a and a Dream World stuff. Dream World stuff. Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler, and I hope you are all happy and healthy, doing the things that you love with those you love to do them with. Guys, do me a favor, smash the like button for me on the video if you enjoy the content. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topics. Massive appreciation, once again, as always, for your incredible support of the channel. Numbers are just through the roof, and couldn't be more appreciative if I tried. Guys, we've got a few stories to update you with this morning. It is Thursday. Happy Thursday. The week is nearly done. And also the pre-season starts very soon. On Saturday, I'm traveling to Reading to see, is it still called the Maddison Arena? Maddison Stadium? Not been there for years and years and years, but looking forward to seeing Tottenham don the new shirt, the new jersey, hopefully seeing a bit of Mohamed Kudus. Unfortunately, we won't be seeing any, in all likelihood, action from Morgan Gibbs-White, as that particular story is still in limbo. A little cheeky update for you. So I'm not sure if I brought this to your attention yesterday or otherwise, but the story out from Nottingham Forest's camp in the TBR, the boot room this morning, is just updating you saying that they're doing everything they possibly can to stop Tottenham from getting this transfer over the line. Not only have they been sort of frustrated by their own attempts to cop block situation with Tottenham, but they were looking for the perfect solution for them, which apparently, according to reports, was for them to negotiate with Manchester City a fee in and around £80 million for Morgan Gibbs-White that would have included James McAtee coming in the other direction. As it's turned out now that in the last 24 hours, McAtee is no longer interested, or it's not. That's a less likely scenario to happen. It wouldn't have happened absent the opportunity for Morgan Gibbs-White to go in the other direction. We also know that Aston Villa were lurking around and were trying to get things done if they were going to be fortunate enough to get rid of some of their players like a Jacob Ramsey, etc. But it's turned out that Nottingham Forest now have offered Morgan Gibbs-White a new contract to make him their highest paid player. And allegedly he has rejected it and at the same time said, here's a transfer request. Let me go, bro. If you love me, let me go. He wants to come to Tottenham. He wants to come down south. And unfortunately, Nottingham Forest fans just are, I don't know, outraged. They are so angry with this prospect. And they're getting into the worlds of delusion. I've got to be honest, the amount of people that I see, Forest fans, I've never seen before, that are in my timeline. It's just one after another of Nottingham Forest fans that are so frustrated by the prospect of Morgan Gibbs-White not wanting to be a part of their great club and wanting to come to a club that finished 17th last year. It's like the last 40 years of Nottingham Forest history is completely irrelevant in their mind. It's like they went from being Europa League winners and then they went to sleep, been in a coma, and they woke up and they finished 6th or 7th. Where did they finish? 7th, wasn't it? At the end of the day, Nottingham Forest need to work out where they are in the pecking order. Most of the fans that I've seen who point to those 2 stars on their chest and say, that's why we're bigger, that's why we're huge. You weren't alive when you last won those things. So, I'm not going to sit here and say that Rome isn't, a monster because let's ignore their days in the Empire. But at the same time, you have to sort of live in the reality a little bit. And Forest are nothing like as big a club in terms of the draw, in terms of the kind of the respect, in terms of the credibility, the recent history, the recent pedigree, and of course the draw for players, money, the stadium, the city, the shirt, the future, the project. Tottenham tick all of those boxes. Nottingham Forest, I'm not taking anything away from them. They had a very good year last year, but that's the anomaly. Let's see you do it sort of 15 times out of 16 participating in Europe like Tottenham were. And then we can have that conversation and remember where you were. Because if we want to do that, we can go back to the 60s as well and talk about lifting league titles and all those sorts of things. Either way, Nottingham Forest fans are incredibly salty. It seems like they're backing their guy. They're backing their Marinakis guy on the most part. Some of their fans are saying the guy's a donut. Let him go. I don't know why you're trying to convince someone to stay that doesn't want to be there. I was always on the kind of same role with Harry Kane. When Harry Kane was desperate to leave, I said, look, if he really wants to go, you might as well let him go, right? There's no point in keeping someone that's unhappy. You're not going to get the same output, the same outcomes. And it's just, have some respect for yourself. If someone doesn't want to be with you, it's like clinging on to your ex It's like, please come back. Please love me. Please love me. In any relationship, the one who wants it least is the one that pulls the other one in. Unfortunately, that's the way that life works. It's like magnetism. Anyway, so this story is talking about Gibbs-White is keen to join Tottenham, and Forest could find a solution with the North London club. Ben Jacobs on Give Me Sports said, my understanding is to counter Tottenham's desire to get that deal done, Forest are to make a new contract offer to Morgan Gibbs-White. Now, over the last 12 months, they've tried to get Gibbs-White to extend, and in so doing, not only offering him improved terms, but also remove the clause, £60 million, which is his current deal. Forest felt this was a secret and could only be learnt of by coming to them. Tottenham obviously got wind of it and therefore indicated that they were going to trigger it. What's interesting there is that if it's true that Manchester City were in conversations with Nottingham Forest about a trade for Morgan Gibbs-White to go in that direction and James McAtee to come the other direction at a total valuation of £18 million, then did Nottingham Forest make Manchester City aware of the clause? Or did they put the clause in and think that because it's a secret clause, no one will ever know about it and therefore it's irrelevant? It goes back to the entire kind of premise, the entire concept of what is the point of having the clause in the first place if no one's going to know about it, and that you yourself didn't disclose that to the team that you were in negotiations about a trade with, because I'm sure City didn't know. Otherwise, they would have just triggered the 60 because McAtee's worth a lot more than £20 million. So it doesn't make any sense. I think Forest are just doing what a lot of sort of salty teams do, which is just like pretend like the reality isn't reality. I think it's silly. But the only problem is that as these things drag on, unfortunately, you have an opportunity cost in your ability to do other things. Tottenham would have, in an ideal world, have already had Morgan Gibbs-White in the club right now, training with the team and be ready for the debut performance from him on Saturday or against Luton the following week, which I'm going to as well. Look forward to getting some content there from you guys. But the fact of the matter is that these things are becoming a bit of an opportunity cost. And so where do we go if it turns out to be a little bit of a problem? Well, guys, I've got to tell you, so let's move on to this story. That Tottenham are still very much monitoring Harvey Elliott. In the world where the Gibbs-White deal doesn't take place, then Harvey Elliott is of desire to Aston Villa. He's also on the wish list of West Ham. Tottenham might have to turn in that direction. I don't mind Harvey Elliott at all. And I want to just show you some of his stats on the screen if you haven't seen them already. And let's bring that into the Oki here. So this is a guy that can obviously play as a 10 and can play out on the left or the right. He's very versatile. And look, his output contributions are sensational. 0.66 per 90, 97th percentile. He gets an assist every 3 games. He's in the top 2 percentile across all the top 5 leagues for goals and assists. This is Harvey Elliott, right? Playing in a variety of different positions. Non-penalty goals, 0.66, which is in the 99th percentile. Very, very impressive. This is on a per 90. So not playing that many minutes versus the amount of goals that he put in. Always the better draw for me than just looking at on a per appearances basis, because if a guy gets 5 minutes at the end of every 90 and then you see he only scores 5 goals or 8 goals in a season, then you might think that he's not as great as he would be if you were judging him on the minutes played basis. As you scroll down, all you see really here is a lot of green shoots of delight, right? So the shooting stats we've sort of gone through a little bit there. I won't bore you too much. Goals to shot ratio, for every 5 shots that he puts in, he gets a goal, right? Really, really, that's a fantastic conversion rate for a guy that's a winger or an attacking midfielder. His passing stats, absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. 99th percentile for passes attempted and completed on medium length. On long length, he's very up there as well. And obviously in the short length, he is incredibly gifted as a passer. I wasn't entirely convinced by the idea of Harvey Elliott, if I'm entirely honest. I thought, good player, sort of decent brand, coming from Liverpool. Liverpool sort of probably don't need him anymore. They've got so many other options. So they're putting together such a great squad. But just because there's someone else who's got different ambitions, different goals, different resources, different intentions, different levels, find someone that might be a little bit surplus to requirements and that guy wants to move on and try something else, doesn't mean that he's a cast off. It means that he's just, a horse for a certain course. And for me, I wasn't convinced, I'll be entirely honest. Then I went and ran him through the Y Scout and started seeing some of his efforts in the micro and was really, really impressed, to the point where I was like, wait, this is Harvey Elliott? I don't remember him doing this. I don't remember him doing that. And then I ran him through the FB refs and the stats really do stack up. I'll be entirely honest. Like it sort of changed my mind He's on the ball all the time. Look at this 97th percentile. He's not someone that shies away. He's crafty, and he's got a lot of graft and determination in his defensive work as well. Gets stuck in, blocks, shots blocked. He's no problem. Interceptions, very good. Think of that Pape Sarr, the ability to interpret, the ability to anticipate, and the ability to intercept. That can be a magical thing in transition. It can be a magical thing for a team that gets banked in at times. And then when you get that opportunity, you've got someone like Harvey Elliott that's sniffing around, Conor Gallagher type of kind of hungriness, Morgan Gibbs-White type of hungriness, if I'm entirely honest. All of these things sort of point you in that direction of thinking this guy's versatile, which, as I say, versatility is a very, very useful tool because it allows you to, if you do pick up injuries, it allows you to have strength in depth across the park. The only problem is if you only have a couple of versatile players, then if one of those gets injured, it essentially eliminates that opportunity for options in various areas of the park. For me, we've got so much versatility in our squad, especially at the top end, that it would take a really, really bad situation with our injury crisis for it to manifest into massive problems. But someone like Harvey Elliott, like I say, just seeing what I saw yesterday on the Y-Scout when I ran him through, and then seeing what I'm seeing this morning in the FB refs, he's someone who gets on the ball, someone who doesn't make too many mistakes. So miscontrols per 90, this is a good thing, right? So the lower the number here, the higher the bar, right? So he's in the top 8% in terms of the amount of miscontrols for people in that position. And the same with dispossessions, passes received. Just really ticks the boxes, guys. Really, really ticks the boxes. So when I hear that Tottenham are looking at him in a world where Morgan Gibbs-White is off, or if it takes too long, or if Nottingham Forest finds some sort of legal loophole to jump through, then Harvey Elliott, to me, in the last sort of 24, 48 hours of my thinking, has elevated itself. What would be really interesting, though, is that I don't think Harvey Elliott will cost £60 million. I think that Morgan Gibbs-White has a little bit more about him in the intricacies of what it is we're looking for, in that determination, in that nastiness that can sit in the 8 as well and develop and progress the ball forward from a deeper position. And it makes you wonder why it is that Nottingham Forest don't just turn around to Liverpool and say, we'll give you 45 million. I think it is all they're asking for Harvey Elliott. And they could actually end up with a player. Think about the transitions and the ability to intercept. Isn't that what Nottingham Forest do brilliantly anyway? Isn't that how they kind of get the yield, get the juice from their squeeze? They sit in a bank of 5 and a bank of 4. And then when they finally get the ball back, they go. Someone like Harvey Elliott, for me, would be a perfect replacement for a Morgan Gibbs-White. And I think he could be modified and molded into that 8 where necessary as well, where he sometimes plays for Forest, but certainly in the 10 or on the right wing, I think that Harvey Elliott would be a good fit for them. So it's an interesting sort of conundrum here of dominoes that have to fall. And I just wanted to sort of share with you my thoughts on Harvey Elliott, because the rumours are out this morning saying that if Tottenham do end up losing out on Gibbs-White for whatever reason, any number of 4 or 5 that are out there, then he will be the way, he might be the way we go. And I actually don't hate it at all. I just want to move across, guys, to this story from, this is from To the Lane and Back, but it's referencing hundreds of different articles that are out there, that essentially Brentford striker Yves Bissouma is still very much expected to leave the club. Right? It's a race between Manchester United to get hold of Mbeumo and someone to pony up the money to make Brentford sit up and take note for Yves Bissouma. We know that Matthew Benham has just sold a large stake in his club to Lubna, the charity guy, the Labour donor, and so there's new faces at Brentford at the top. There's new faces, obviously, in the training room, in the coaching staff, and there's probably going to be a couple of new faces more than there already has been coming into the playing staff. A lot of change at Brentford. I do think there's a lot of potential vulnerabilities for Brentford this year. I think that their chances of survival, given what Sunderland are doing and how many they've already bought 6 players, an incredible window for them. Leeds United are just about to get Sean Longstaff over the line. They also got in a few other players as well that are kind of giving them a good crack of the whip of staying up. Burnley, not so much, although still making some decent moves. I think that this season at the bottom end of the park, I don't think it's going to be like every other season in recent memory where the 3 teams that go up are miles away from everybody else. I think there is some actual jeopardy of relegation here for the teams that get sucked in to a relegation battle, like a West Ham, possibly like a Brentford, unless they can keep hold of some of their superstars. And now I don't think they can really afford to lose a Vissa and an Mbeumo. They probably rather keep Mbeumo. And so that's why, according to reports yesterday, they've actually upped their asking price to closer to 70 million or above for Mbeumo, at which point Manchester United haven't budged. They're still sat at 63 plus 2 or 60 plus 5, but around they're £5 million away, essentially, according to all reports. Now, Johan Visser, one year left on his contract. Brentford want £50 million for the guy. I don't think they're going to get £50 million for the guy. The last bid that we heard about was that someone had bid about 20 million. Now, again, Tottenham are very much interested in this guy as a potential Richarlison replacement. Newcastle United this morning have also come in as a potential bidder in a world where they either lose an Alex Isak and they do get Hugo Ekitike, or if they don't get Hugo Ekitike because he goes to Liverpool and Alex Isak stays, they still do need a replacement for Callum Wilson. And so you could absolutely see and make logical sense of a guy that scored 19 goals without any need or any help from penalties. It's a fascinating sort of update and dilemma there for what do Brentford do? Do they, if they can get something like 40 million or 38, 35, 40 million for a Visser, which I still think is punchy, then are they going to take that and then Manchester United end up cop blocking themselves from their own mistakes again and they lose out and they have to go in another direction? Or are United going to end up just fronting up the cash and then anybody that's pursuing Visser is going to be left disappointed? It will be interesting. But the reason why Tottenham are still looking at this one, even if we do get Morgan Gibbs-White and we still want to go and get Adam Wharton, is because as of last night, and I said this on last night's video, I find it quite incredible that this would have any truth to it at all. But according to all reports, guys, Palmeiras, the Brazilian team that just finished and did very well in the Club World Cup, I think they made about 35 million quid, 40 million quid from the Club World Cup. So not a bad day or not a bad couple of weeks' work for a Brazilian football team. They do have money coming in. They have that multi-club ownership model. I've spoken before on Sean Butler TV about the entire Brazilian ecosystem of football changing over the last 24 months with loads of American money being pumped into that world. Obviously, TV media rights deals that are now extending themselves out to bigger broadcasters in Europe. Those sorts of things help with that kind of ecosystem of money floating around the model. And with that, Palmeiras and other teams are starting to now look back to Europe, as I said before, and it's usually been a kind of unidirectional transfer policy where young talent goes from Brazil into Spain or Portugal, or sometimes now because of Brexit into the UK. But basically the players that go in that direction back, it usually waits until the end of their career. But those people are now going towards Saudi Arabia. But because Brazil have now got money, in no small part actually on top of that, because Saudi money has also pivoted to South America recently, suddenly there seems to be more attraction from money coming from Brazil into Europe to bring people back earlier than they have done in the past. And Richarlison is one such option. As I mentioned yesterday, his partner has just had a child, and so you never know what that sort of impact on their life, or on the life of that family, will have. Does she want to sort of go back to be with her family that may be back in Brazil? Does he want to be back in Brazil? Does the additional money and certainly the eyeballs and the attention? Don't forget, Brazilian teams and South American teams generally did a really good job in the Club World Cup, matching themselves up against European competition that has generally been seen as stronger. Has that sort of that whole kind of conversation around the Club World Cup, has that shifted the kind of blueprint a little bit? Is there a new paradigm that will emerge whereby Brazilian players or other players might not necessarily see Brazil as a league where no one's really paying attention to apart from the kids? And so in a world where, Richarlison's primary focus is minutes and it's a World Cup year, is there any chance where a deal with him going to Palmeiras could emerge? Now, I don't see why not. I think until now, he doesn't want to go to Saudi, doesn't want to go to Turkey. He wants to stay in a league where the eyeballs are on for the World Cup purposes. But if you're Brazilian and the Brazilian selectors are obviously looking at Europe, they're also going to be looking at the Brazilian league as well. So if his primary outcome here is to make sure he's in the number 9 jersey for Brazil in the World Cup, I don't think that takes a dent in a world where he goes back to Palmeiras, a team that's very much on the up over there and a monster in that particular league. He could be a hero. He could get all the minutes he wants. And like I say, the money will be there to satisfy. But £50 million, I still think that's a really ridiculous number to be asking for from Tottenham. As I said yesterday, especially because Daniel Levy doesn't see the value in 27-year-olds himself. He would never pay £50 million for a 27-year-old because he doesn't think they have any sell-on value. So how can you have that approach to your own transactions, your own transfers in, but expect someone else to not follow that same school of thought on the way out? So the £50 million price tag is ludicrous. he has been amortized down to a very low level on the account. So sort of 25 million quid, I think, would be the right amount of money. We shall see if anything materializes there. I do doubt it, but if he doesn't, there's other clubs that might be interested. Maybe, for example, Brentford might be a solution for him. If they were to lose Vissa, would they take someone like Richarlison at half the price? Or if they did get 40 million quid for Vissa, would 20 million pound be enough to be able to allow Brentford to kind of replace a player that when he's fit, when he's on form, he does score the goals. Fair play to him. He really does. And I don't have any problem with saying that, even though, like I say, he's not my favourite player. Generally, I really love him as a person, just not that mad about him as a player. But he does score goals when fully fit. Injuries have always been a problem with him. But if Vissa was to leave, or Mbeumo, could you make the argument that Brentford could have a like-for-like replacement in a fully fit version of Richarlison? He wouldn't have to leave home. Nice little journey from North London to West London. And he still gets to play in the Premier League. And he might be the hero over there that keeps them up and that has a really good season and then guarantees his place in the Brazilian team. It's an interesting one, guys, and I do think that will be a story that probably happens later on in the window if it does. Last couple of stories for you guys, just super quick. Leeds United have begun talks to sign Igor Paixão from Feyenoord. The reason I'm bringing that up to you is because he is a player that is a striker but can also play off the right and the left. He's a sort of versatile player. We did a Y-Scout review on him back in January when Tottenham were linked with him. I said at the time, I think he's a very useful player in a certain league. He's done really good things in the Dutch league, but if I'm entirely honest, he reminds me a little bit of like a Steven Bergwijn type, and I'm not sure he would transition into the Premier League and smash the numbers, but not for us, but for Leeds, not a bad shout. If that does happen, does that kill any option for Manor Solomon? Different types of players. I'm not comparing the two, but the fact that Paixão can play off the right and off the left as well as being a striker, does that mean that they don't have all the money that they need to do? And obviously, most of the time, teams come up. The first priority should be to fix the defense to make sure that they've got as good a chance to stay in games as long as possible. It's nice to see Leeds making a move for a forward, but maybe the rest of their budget needs to go on improving their backline. Let's find out. Just wanted to also just be a little bit clearer. Last one other story for you guys. Serge Reguilon, believe it or not, might not be leaving the Premier League after all. West Ham United are interested in signing him. He'll have played for quite a lot of London clubs, won't he, if he gets that move? Good luck to him. I always like Reguilon and have absolutely no trouble with him going to our major rival, fierce rivals, not particularly. And the last story I want to show you guys was just about this Alejandro Garnacho story, because this morning it's all over the press again that Tottenham really are one of the three teams and probably ahead of the third, but certainly Aston Villa and Tottenham are considered the two big teams that would be interested in Garnacho. Now, on last night's video, I just showed you a quick run through of why I think statistically it kind of makes sense. Now, when you look at FB refs, and I'll show you right now, the reason I didn't do it yesterday was because FB refs doesn't really like if you're just scanning through FB refs on the Garnacho, I'll show you right here. You can see it looks like a lot of red and a lot of green, and you might just kind of go, not really it. But as I showed you on the Y-Scout last night, when you dial up the things that really matter in a specific kind of nuanced context of just what you're looking for from a left winger that can do exactly what you want, take-ons, crosses, conversions, touches into the box, touches in the final third, also anticipation, interception, pressing, opposition presses in the final third. All of those things that you would look for in a player that could do a little job about, here or there. Well, you start to dial all those players up and all of the greats get filtered out eventually, and you're left with a couple. You're left with Garnacho, you're left with Ademola Lookman, and you're left with Anthony Gordon of Newcastle. And I think at 22, 23 years old, Garnacho, he's a player for me that could do something, as long as Tottenham Hotspur's Thomas Frank really thinks that he can sort of transform the mentality of the guy and turn him into someone that's hungry and humble, rather than the version that we currently have heard about. But I just wanted to show you, even on FB refs, when you're looking at it, if you're looking at the sorts of things for output that you want to see, shooting is in the 96th percentile, shots on target, 85th percentile. This is in the last 365 days compared to the last to the big five leagues. Obviously, Y-Scout looks at it just across compared to everybody, and you filter people out one by one. Shot creating actions from a shot, 90th percentile. Shot creating actions from the fouls that he draws, 87th percentile. Goal creating actions from a shot. So he takes a shot, something else happens, and then a goal comes from it. 75th percentile. Tackles in the attacking third. Someone that presses from the front. It's not something that you have with like a Sonny. It's not something that you had all the time. Like this. Remember last season I was saying under the Ange system, you're never going to win a game if you have Maddison, Sonny, and Brennan Johnson in the same team. Or very rarely, because you have three players there that are more show pony than workhorses, and you need to press from the front in the Ange system. And I think you'll need to do the same in a Thomas Frank system that wants to take and remember sit on the shoulders of what we created before and move ahead with it. So there's lots of things you're looking for in specific players that play out on the left. I know he might be a dickhead. I know that might be a problem for you guys. And I saw from the comments on last night's video that 90% of you were like, no, don't want him. And I'm not saying we should get him, but I'm saying in a world where Thomas Frank is contemplative about that and still thinks that he can get the best out of him, then the best version of Garnacho, I think, is a really good fit for Tottenham, for what we need. Look, carries, 70th percentile, 34 carries a game, 88th percentile for carrying distance, 87th percentile for progressive distances, progressive carries, 95th percentile, carries into the penalty area, 3 times a game, 93rd percentile. He does that, lays it off to a Kudus in the 10, or a Maddison with a little bit of space, or a Gibbs-White. Crazy things can happen. Crazy things can happen. And if you've got a fox in the box that can know where the ball's going to fall to, like a Solanke when he's redeployed into his traditional 9 sentiment, or a Visser, I genuinely don't feel the same way as you guys do. If your overwhelming sentiment is that he's one to avoid as a player. If it's a person, I can get on board it, but that's down for Thomas Frank to figure out. Not because none of us know what he's really like, and none of us would know what he's really like unless you interact with him, engage with him. So, but as a player, I think Garnacho, to me, if you could make room by selling Sonny and Solomon and make room in that squad for someone like a Garnacho, and you've still got room if Richarlison left, Sonny left, and Solomon left, and then you could go and bring in a Gibbs-White or a Harvey Elliott, a Garnacho, and a Visser. Dream world stuff. Dream world stuff. Anyway, we shall see all of that. A lot of it all depends right now, guys, on what's going to happen with Morgan Gibbs-White and what's going to happen with their owner. Unfortunately, at the moment, we don't really know because their owner is, he's someone that he likes to threaten a lot, but he doesn't necessarily always take the action.
I haven't done it yet. I may do it. If this doesn't work out, probably I will do it. I would almost say definitely.
Come on, the Spurs. See you later, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.